Welcome everybody to the Merchandise Show where we help you mind your own business. Today, I decided to do a little bit of a different format. And that was because, I don't necessarily just love doing podcasts by myself, but according to the numbers, they perform about as well. So I decided we'd do something similar to a solo episode where we could discuss a subject or a book, but the only difference is I'm going to have somebody else join me to comment, to riff off of the stuff that I'm saying, the subject matter at hand. I want other people's opinion just so there's somebody else to kind of fill in the gaps and keep the conversation going. And I thought I would just call it the Merchandise Mastermind. I think that's a great name. Everybody needs a mastermind. Tonight, the person that's joining me is, I would say, one of the 3 or 4 people that I would say that's changed my life in a drastic way. And I didn't even tell him that I was going to say this, but
No.
I met Nick at a workshop, and it turns out we actually lived right down the road from each other. And he's a very busy guy. He's done a lot of different things, but right now he's out and about in the community taking sweet photos of real estate. He's a great husband, entrepreneur, and friend. I want to welcome Nick Highfill to the Merchandise Show.
Wow, Randy, what an introduction! Thank you, sir. I get emotional sometimes, and my left eye here is tearing up a little bit with what you said. It means a lot. Thank you for sharing that, because it's my belief that when you share that about one another, and especially man to man, it's hard to do that, right? And us as men aren't trained to share our true feelings, and there's not many guys who'd say "Hey, man, you changed my life." That's something you typically say before your brother's dying,
Right.
in the nursing home. You know what? I just want to let you know, Randy, you did change my life. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you saying that. But thank you for the introduction. Yeah, I'm Nick Highfill, entrepreneur since the age of 14. Graduated as a super senior from a online high school because I decided to start my own business in high school, and then I was unable to graduate on time at the current high school because I had some learning disabilities that I was battling through. A lot of hardships just in school. Family life was good. I didn't go through anything traumatic, but just trying to get those grades passing. The things weren't just firing in the brain, and I think that's a gift in many ways because you read about successful entrepreneurs and you look at their track records, and a lot of them didn't graduate high school. Some didn't, and a lot didn't finish college. And they started college and then ended up bailing out. And I just see that as a common theme, and I kind of heard that early on, and I was like, maybe that's not a bad thing, just because I'm barely can graduate high school and I became a super senior. So I made that transition to be a online high school graduate because it was going to be a little lower of a barrier, still get my regular high school diploma, but a lower barrier, and there was going to be more support to help me with what I had was called an IEP through the state of Oregon. So they were able to accommodate me better because there's less kids, more teachers versus way too many kids and way little teachers. So I kind of leveraged that opportunity, but why I did that, a production company was seeing my work because I was a bit of an amateur, but they thought it looked good. And they said, "Hey, we want you to come in and do some work with us." And I said, "Okay, I can do that." And they said, we want you to be a freelancer. I'm like, "Oh, sweet, work for free. I'm all about it. Good experience." Turns out a freelancer is a paid position, and I went there and I got a check for going to be a freelancer on a film set. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. I want to do more work with this company. So I proved my value there. I was editing videos for free to prove my worth. They ended up paying me for the entirety of the project on those that I did edit for free initially. And worked there about 2 years and had the opportunity to go to a workshop. My first week, actually, that I worked at that company. And 2 years later, going to that one workshop took me all the way to Spain, met some individuals, decided to quit my job, flew home, quit the job, went out on my own to start a video production company, and that was almost 6 years ago now. It's crazy to think. And ever since then, it's been commercial production as far as TV commercials, online web videos, training videos. You kind of have friends that get married. You might do a few wedding videos, but kind of got a little tired of that, and I really started to optimize some things. So I started a online time management course and became a time management coach, and I gave some presentations, and I appreciate Randy showing up for that. Small group. There's like 150, 175 people in the room, and that was quite exhilarating. But I kind of wasn't super fulfilled and not super satisfied with going down that route of trying to get paid to share knowledge necessarily. I just have a servant leadership heart. So when all you want to do is serve and spend your whole day serving and pouring into others, you start to go, oh, well, this thing needs to generate money. And Randy and I've talked about this, and you're like, oh, let's just make money. Let's make an online course. Let's do this and push this and push this and push this. But as a man of faith, I think Randy could testify to this, but you're called to disciple other men. And that was my favorite part about the whole process. So I feel very strongly that I kind of pulled back the curtains from that, and I got back into the swing of regular business, shifted the path of that a little bit into just focusing in one niche, real estate media. And that's where we are, present day. And I won't say too much more, but that's kind of my whole life story in a nutshell. So now you guys know a little bit more about me, but thanks for having me on, Randy.
Yes, thank you for being here. And the reason I wanted to talk about beliefs is that is what I wanted to talk about tonight, just for everybody else. I don't think that I formally mentioned that, but I did talk to Nick about it. I want to talk about beliefs, people's belief systems, limiting beliefs, that type of subject. And the reason was because I felt like this was the thing that held me back for so long. And I was just thinking about that before the podcast here, digging back into all of those beliefs. And yeah, sometimes it's a little scary what you did believe about yourself. But I still think it holds me back in some areas. Um, but I'm working on that, and that's why we're doing this podcast. It's a mastermind to break some of that stuff up. Now, on an earlier episode, there was a voiceover artist named Brandon Miller who told his story on this podcast, and he grew up as like a troubled kid, and he always worked for other people all throughout his life. But one day he was listening to a podcast, and somebody on that podcast told him, "You could be a business owner." You know, obviously the podcast host, I don't think he knew Brandon, but like he was just speaking to his audience. But like that was a whole new thought to Brandon. And like that's actually what started his whole entrepreneurial journey, was just that belief that he, Brandon Miller, could be a business owner. Totally new thought to him, changed his belief system, started his own business. And so for me, like for so many years, I thought it was going to be so hard to start a business. And I don't know, maybe I don't know if you can relate to that at all or not, Nick. Maybe you were just too young and like, yeah, I got a business.
I had no hesitation because I wanted to be out of school so bad.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
So do you think that because somebody told me this one time. He's like, you will keep a certain belief and you will live according to a certain belief until that comes more painful to you than the alternative. Do you think that was the case for you? Like the thought of staying in school was more painful than like going through all of the process of actually starting your own company?
Yeah, I think that could be accurate. It was definitely less painful to figure out how to use the part of my brain that I loved and the part of my personality, and that was interacting with people, shooting photos and video at age 14. That's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to get out in the workforce. I wanted to make money. Grandparents and parents both had businesses. So the
Mm.
belief of starting one was never a hurdle for me because growing up, I grew up inside those businesses. Right, grandparents' shop I was always at after school, working on little odds and ends around their business, and then later in my life, probably I'd say around 8 or 9 years old, my parents started a business, and I was always on the road with my dad. So I never. That's all I knew. Like I didn't really know you could work for somebody. I know that
Oh,
sounds crazy.
really?
I have a disconnect of people like working a 9 to 5, like working at a Walmart or something. I'm like, what? How does that even work? And I often uh, tell people, I say, I would love to get a job at McDonald's and see how fast and how far I could rank up through the company, and start just like Donald Trump did at the fry machine, right? Start at the fry box, and honestly though, see how far I could go up. And I actually, one of my employees at one point, he had called me about a year later after, unfortunately, I had to let him go. But he's like, hey, dude, he's like, that was one of the things he said, you changed my life. Thank you for actually letting me go because it made me wake up and realize that I needed to change some things. But he goes, what you had said about the McDonald's thing just made so much sense and just very inspiring, very powerful. And thanks for sharing that with me. And, it was my belief that I was like, oh man, that'd be cool to quit this and go work at McDonald's and just have fun, But I wish I could relate to, not like having some struggle starting a business, but I mean, nobody told me no at 14. I mean, my principals told me I was
Mm.
young, dumb, and stupid. I'd never succeed in life. But my parents had no objection to it. But I also don't really like taking no for an answer either.
Mm. Interesting.
Yeah.
Like for me, it was just like the whole thing of like paperwork, licenses, things like that. I was like, all the phone calls I'm gonna have to make, all the bureaucracy that I'm going to have to wade through. I was like, I, I guess for me, I just always believed it was going to be such a big deal. And then when I went through it, like it really wasn't. It wasn't that big of a deal to get all of that stuff taken care of. Everything online was very intuitive. They walked you through the process. I mean, registering with the state and all that stuff. Actually, very easy, or at least it was for me.
Yeah. And it's
Um,
and it's
Go
only
ahead.
getting easier too, Randy. Like I think it's called LegalZoom. There's maybe another app out there like it. You can do all that. You can set the LLCs, file for all the paperwork, get your EIN and your BIN, and like
Mm,
get all that like through one website now. It's nuts.
yeah,
It's easy, you know.
it's easy.
Yeah. But now I want
Yeah.
to ask you this about beliefs and you not believing that you probably were qualified to start a business. Now, I was young enough just to, I truly probably didn't know better, but to start one. Now, you have a few years on me, and you had jobs before that where I didn't really have jobs besides lemonade stands, and
Mm,
and you probably were able to have a lot more negative belief packed into you by teachers, by parents who may have faced adversity. Not saying your parents faced adversity, but adult figures in your life that you heard could have faced adversity, and we start adopting and shaping all of our beliefs so early on. And if you're
hmm
told and hear that businesses are so hard and people are failing at them and people are getting in trouble, it's like that's what you're going to think, unless somebody else comes along and is like, hey, this is how you do it. You're probably never going to change, just like what you quoted there.
Yeah. I don't really know. I don't really know if I'd ever talked to anybody that had like started a business, started a company, anybody that was like real fresh in like the entrepreneurial space, or even somebody that had been in it for years and years. But I guess it was just something that I assumed. Um, it could have been. I know, like, one thing that comes to mind is like my dad started a concrete business when I was really, really young. And uh, I wasn't able to actually see it through and like see it succeed. And so I don't know if that was just my reference for like how businesses work and things like that. It really could have been. I know that it caused a lot of stress on me and his relationship with other people as well. And I guess just looking at all that, looking at starting a business from that frame of mind did not look attractive at all.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think I really had anybody tell me though that like this is way too hard for you to do. It was just something that I maybe assumed. And I'm a great assumer. And that is something that I have to work on every day. But anyway, uh, I don't know. I wasn't bad at school. Maybe that was my problem. Is I was fairly good at school, not necessarily learning things, but very good at finding answers or finding shortcuts.
Yeah.
Like I would do the curriculum that we had, all of the answers in the textbooks were highlighted or not highlighted, but they were in bold lettering or italicized. And so you could whip out lessons in no time. And that's what I did. And um, like I look back on it now, I taught school later, okay? And I'm reading some of the same books that I went through in school, and I'm like, this is so cool. I'm reading these science books, and I'm like, I had no idea this is how that worked. And I'm like,
Yeah.
but I did this exact same book when I was in school.
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess one thing with all of that and starting my own business and all of that, Dad did tell me when I was in high school, he did tell me that, hey, um, you lack commitment. Like you have no idea what commitment is. He told me that. And it wasn't in a mean way or a harsh way, but he did tell me that. And I never really knew what he meant until I did start my own company. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's kind of a rabbit trail. Um, Truth be told, the whole process of actually getting started in a business really was not that hard for me. And like you said, it's only getting easier. Um, but it was just that belief that this is going to be so difficult that kept me from accomplishing that sooner. And once I did get it off the ground, I was like, why didn't I do this 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Anyway, so there is a article online on Psychology Today, which I guess is a psychology website organization. I don't know what they do, but they said that your core beliefs are formed in childhood before the age of 7.
Mm.
And I was trying to think back before this podcast. I was trying to think back, like what did I believe at the age of 7? And I don't really know. At this point. I don't even really know if I could recall that. What about you? What were you thinking
Wow.
at the age of 7? What were you believing?
You know, I don't think a lot of us could recall what happened prior to age 7, but maybe some older people who weren't inundated with technology like we were that just zapped our living brain cells away. But,
Mm.
I do think that for years, if you were raised by your mom and dad, not other parents, but I should just say your guardian in general, if they're constantly telling you no, don't do this, don't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that, I believe that 18 years old comes around and that 18-year-old looks a lot different than maybe somebody that was like, hey, dream big, do what you want to do. If you don't want to be in high school, find an alternative, go figure it out. If you want to do something, do it yourself. I think that 18-year-old looks a lot different. I'm kind of relating to myself, but when people are always telling you, no, don't do this, don't do that, no, don't do that, you start, I think, not believing in yourself as much. You don't have as high a self-esteem. Your confidence is a lot lower. You find yourself getting into more trouble. Maybe you're smoking pot. Maybe you're drinking. Not saying that's a bad thing. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But, I do think in childhood, really impacts your entire character of who you are. We were just at the store before I on this podcast now, and this mom's just nagging on her kids, yelling at them in the parking lot. Give that back to your sister. Do this, do that. Get in the car. I mean, just slamming, speeding off aggressively in the parking lot, and that's where you're gonna believe, you know. And then that girl grows up. She's gonna have her own kids. She's not gonna believe in herself that she could be a good mom unless something drastically changes. My wife, for
Yeah.
example, she she's had a lot of negative beliefs about herself due to her past. And it wasn't, and I'm not saying I'm the answer, but it wasn't until I came into her life and there was somebody there just pouring into her every single day, every single minute, that she is enough, that she is value, that she has worth, she's going to do great things. And
Mm-hmm.
that helps reprogram it. But she was used to a pre programmed subconscious mind that thought a certain way. That's all she knew.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of that comes from childhood.
Yeah, and one thing that you said was like, I don't or I don't really know if any of us know or remember what happened before the age of 7, which is, I mean, that fact right there to me is a little bit startling because, like, how in the world are we supposed to dig up all of those negative and limiting beliefs if we can't even remember what caused them in the first place?
I think you'll see them, Randy. Well, I think you won't tell you have them, but you have them. And it's even like, maybe when you're trying to become a parent and then those things start coming out, right? Like, oh, I can't do this. I'm a crappy mom. My mom was crappy. I'm never going to be able to amount to anything. She could barely do it. So I think those will start to be uncovered depending on what season you're at in life. I don't think it's something necessarily you can just like, I felt this, and this before childhood, but it's just in your fabric of who you are.
Yeah.
As you mature.
Yeah. Now, according to a PBS article online, I just looked this up before we got started here, but it says that we make 35,000 conscious decisions every day. Now, I don't really think that I think about 35,000 different things every day or making those decisions. And so, and you already kind of talked about this. It's like the whole subconscious mind, what we believe, our foundation of where we start every action from. Like, if that's off, then like a lot of our decisions are going to be off, whether we actually realize it or not.
So there's part of your brain called the reticular activating system, the RAS, RAS. You'll hear it referred
Mm-hmm.
to a lot, and that will filter out a lot of your those subconscious mind thoughts. Right? You said what 30,000, 35,000 thoughts a day, and I'm chewing gum right now, and that's a thought, right? I'm thinking about opening my mouth, shutting my mouth. That's triggering my brain and my muscles to do that, right? There's
Right.
many thoughts happening right now. Even my finger moving, me talking, if you're watching this on video. But what your RAS does help you with is focus on what you are thinking about. Today, we were at the store shortly after people were getting off work. All I could literally notice is people in scrubs, men and women. Everybody had scrubs on. Every store we went, they all had scrubs. I asked my wife, I'm like, sweetheart, what's up with the scrubs? Am I missing something? And of course, like I knew people were getting off work, kind of, but she's like, yeah, people are probably just off for the day, and they're all coming to do grocery shopping. And I'm like, oh yeah, we kind of are around a bunch of medical clinics, but I couldn't help to notice. I couldn't tell you one other person I noticed besides all the people in scrubs. I can tell you about
Yeah.
all of them, right?
Yeah.
But I was still having all these thoughts, pushing this grocery cart around, grab things off the shelf for my wife. But those 30,000 thoughts, your brain protects you from thinking those, and your RAS works in a unique way.
Yeah, they were talking about that in the article as well with the whole I think this was an article on LinkedIn, but he was talking about 35,000 decisions every day. But he said your capacity to problem solve or your capacity to make decisions, that goes down a little bit every time you make a decision. And so I can see like the brain being so um, power hungry or energy hungry, like just filtering a lot of that stuff out in order for you not to have to think about it.
Do you
Use
think
the
our
pressure.
brains? Sorry. Do you think our brains are being utilized to 100% capacity? As in, do you think it's gonna sound like tinfoil hat stuff, but do you think they're purposefully hiding what we are truly capable of doing as human beings?
Oh man, are they purposely hiding it?
Yeah,
Boy, I don't know. That's
through
a
what
really,
we're
really good
taught in
question.
school to what we are. I mean, nowadays with technology, what we're being fed.
Yeah,
You think about like the factory job. It's I would say a majority of the people work in some sort of assembly or putting things together in the world. Somebody's got to put together the cars and literally everything around us in our room right now.
yeah,
And it just kind of teaches people to be assembly line people. You've all seen the meme like the schools look just like prisons. Why is that? You get the same crappy food on the same crappy tray, like what's going on there? We're just being programmed for that. Stand in line, next, next, next. But then you have somebody like Elon Musk. We're both humans. We both had the same opportunity to education. This guy is literally launching rockets and making them land before NASA can.
yeah,
And the government's like, all right, SpaceX, can you help us do that? Boeing's like, we got some people stuck in space. Hey, Elon, can you go get them? It's a human being.
yeah. Yeah, I don't like they all say that, oh, you can do anything you want, you can be anything you want. But like nobody actually teaches you how to use your brain to the full capacity. I don't think.
No,
I mean, I was never taught that stuff. Maybe you were. I don't know.
I don't think I was. There's so many different personalities too. I'm pretty high strung, wired, go get 'em. And I find that I'll start noticing patterns in my brain and how it works. The food I put into my body, if I exercise, if I don't exercise, if I'm doing the things that satisfy me on a regular basis, if I do something that's totally deactivating paperwork or something like that, I'm just like, just clock out. But people interacting with them, stuff like this, I'm on fire. I'm hopped up. I enjoy it. Um,
Hmm.
but I don't know. I don't know if I mean you go to college and learn about human psychology and the brain, but I think a lot of people nobody really knows how to teach on that. Miss Fields
Yeah.
at the elementary school is not going to teach you like this is how you use your brain, right? But obviously Elon Musk learned how to leverage the heck out of his.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you have like people online that are getting into the whole vibration stuff and the whole um, law of attraction stuff like that. Um, I mean, I never heard that stuff till you told me about it.
Yeah, one hundred
And
percent.
so, like, I would have loved, would have, well, I don't know if I would have been listening actually, but like around high school age to be introduced to some of those concepts and like some of the, hey, you can actually leverage your brain, your thoughts, your beliefs. You can change what you're going to do with your life by being more intentional with these things. I think would have been very useful information for me to know coming out of high school.
Yeah,
But anyway, another point in the article said limiting beliefs will continue to create bigger and bigger problems until you address them. Um, and then you already touched on this, but another point was limiting and core beliefs will alter your perspective and your behavior in order to maintain their truth, which would be like the RAS, the reticular activating system or whatever it's called. I'm
yeah.
not I'm not real big on those terms.
The
Um,
RAS, reticular
the
activating
RAS,
system.
yeah. which also is called confirmation bias, right?
I'm not sure about that. I haven't heard that, but it could be.
Okay. So I heard somebody talk on like the difference between truth and fact.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever dived into that, dove
I
into
haven't.
that.
Talk about that. Truth
Okay.
and fact.
Yeah, a truth, somebody's truth versus a real fact.
Okay.
So like I guess they would call fact something that you could back up with like the scientific process. In a controlled environment, you could reproduce the same thing over and over again, which would be known as like a fact, right?
Mhm.
But they're talking about truth, your truth, which, is a term that gets thrown around a lot. Um, but like your truth is just something that you have repeated to yourself enough times that your brain actually just accepts it as a fact.
Yeah.
And it could be true, and it might not be true. It doesn't really matter because your mind is always going to work to prove that it actually is true.
Yeah. Yeah. If
Have
you're
you ever done that?
100%, and I even think about all the time whenever I talk about my learning disabilities as a child. I never wanted to
Mm-hmm.
be labeled with that until I was, and I accepted the fact of what it was. I knew there was some disconnect in my brain, something that wasn't working, and I never really took it as a handicap and be like, oh, I'm just going to run with this whole I have issues here and just accept that fact. But what I realized was later in my years, after going down a self improvement journey, I was like, man, I talk about how bad I am at reading and learning comprehension. Oh, I'm the
Mm-hmm.
worst. I'm the worst. I can never read a book. Nope, can't happen. I don't read books. Then I started to pick these books up, partially because I had to. I did this program where you had to read 10 pages of a self improvement book a day. I was like, well, this will be interesting. Those 10 pages sometimes took me an hour or more.
Wow.
10 pages, just blistering slow. And I'm like, I don't know if I can make it through this, right? But I just had to get reps. I'm still slow, but it's also, I just kind of accept that. I'm like, at least I can read. I can get it done. Might have to read it 2, 3 times to make it make sense, but if this is something I truly want to do and better myself, I don't really want to stay at the same level. Like I can notice improvement by doing so, by reading. Even my day to day comprehension with conversations, remembering basic things. If I'm reading and constantly feeding my mind, it works a lot better. But if I go friggin' brain dead for a week on vacation, I come back and I'm like, what? Do I run a business? Okay, and I log in and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Like these emails come in, like I'm freaking brain dead, right? So it's weird, but for me, I constantly got to feed my mind, so just everything's working.
Yeah.
Do you experience any of that? Like, do you forget things easily?
Uh, I wouldn't really say so. I remember really random facts about
Okay.
people. Like people will tell me just like a story, and there'll just be some for random fact about said story that I'll remember. And I can bring it up. I can bring it up 3 months, 6 months later, and they're like, "How? What?" Like
Yeah.
I don't really know why. I don't know. I kind of see life. I see my life as like one big old sitcom kind of. I just laugh at a lot of things that happen, but like whenever somebody tells me stories, I remember kind of the comedic, the the funny little details that I guess stand out to me. Um, but
But
no,
those were the
with
things
like
you probably laughed at, right? And you had an emotion, and you felt that emotion, and you remember that a little bit easier.
yeah, and I also think that like probably that fact helped me paint the picture of like whatever story they were telling.
Hmm.
Because I'm a very visual person. I like visuals, and so I think that just helps me paint the picture in my mind.
Yeah.
But my yeah, confirmation bias. I mean, I've had so many other things, but like you talking about the whole schooling thing was
Yeah.
very that's very interesting because I tutored an autistic boy for a year, and um, his dad would tell me, plenty of times that he's got learning disabilities. This is what he can and cannot do. This is what you're going to have to do. And I mean, I took that information in, but every day, whenever he decided to like, you could kind of tell when he's like, all right, I'm gonna pull the autistic card here, right?
Yeah.
I would actually, as much as I could, I would actually take that away from him. And what it really boiled down to was like he really he could learn. He was very very hyper focused, which I don't know if that's like typical of like autistic people, but like he could learn if he his subject that he was really focused on when I taught him was Abraham Lincoln. I
Yeah.
mean, he knew this guy's height, he knew this guy's weight, he knew this guy's career all the way up to like president. You could start quoting the Gettysburg Address and like he knew it right away. Just it was a Derringer that John Wilkes Booth shot him with. So like this guy could learn and he could learn a lot of information and retain it. And so like I looked at that and I was just like, every day I would try to take that card away from him. Like, no, you can learn. Like you actually are very smart. And little by little, we got him to where he was actually um, he was learning a lot of his schoolwork. We actually got him to a place where he was playing softball with the rest of the kids,
Yeah.
and just the improvement that we saw over the course of a year was just crazy. Which the previous teacher also kind of laid the foundation, and then I kind of built on that and saw huge improvements just with that little switch in the brain.
And Randy, that boils down to as well as you were able, amongst it sounds like a teacher, maybe some other people, pour into that young man's life. I'm not saying this is his specific scenario, but it's all too common that people are diagnosed or are born with something like that, autism, and
Mm.
all they hear from a young age is you're never going to be normal. You're not going to be like the other kids. You have problems. You're different. We have to do this instead of this. You can't have this because it makes you do this. And constantly, if you start paying attention and you start to be an observer in the world, get quiet and watch people. And even the people very close to you, you'll start to watch and see how they interact with one another. And just look at couples. And this young man, though, if he was constantly told that thing, going back to the subconscious and whatnot of being programmed before age 7, if that's all he knew, once he got out after 7 years old and throughout school, I mean, he was just like default, like, no, I'm dumb, not capable, can't do anything. Autistic kids are some of the smartest and most capable, incredible human beings on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
Intelligent. They have the ability and the gift to focus their mind on certain things and complete the task with more detail than you and I can even fathom together sitting down.
Mm-hmm.
And can I share a story with you?
Do it.
So this is a true story, but it comes back to belief. There's a man who OD'd on drugs. This was his third time. He was in the hospital, and his family came, and the doctor was like, "Yeah, he's done. He's going to be dying. He's not going to recover from this. I don't think he's in a coma, but I mean, he was not doing hot, barely responsive, um, and didn't have any voice to talk. I mean, he was near death.
Mm.
Family all went to the hospital, said their goodbyes, peace out. They're like, geez, this is the guy's third time doing this. What hasn't he learned, right? Some other family members stopped by the hospital before, and this individual the couple are pretty optimistic and believe that a lot of things are possible, and anything is truly possible if you put your mind to it. And they show up, and he decided that it's not his last day, and he was going to talk to him. And when the doctor said, "Oh no, he can't talk," once the doctor left, they had taken her iPad and started to go down the alphabet so they could figure out what he wants. Because this guy was responsive enough where he'd go,
Mm.
but he couldn't form words. So like, okay, what are you trying to say? Because he's trying to talk. And they typed it all out because he went, on whatever they wanted him to click. And he said, "I'm scared." He's like, "Yeah, I bet you are too. Like, I would be scared if I were laying in bed too." He's like, "We got work for you. You got to get out of here." He's like, "We got properties to clean. People on the street are relying on you to get back to the heavy equipment. What are we doing? We got to get out of this hospital." That other family, the family members that were there, showed up to the dinner, and they're like, "Oh, it's so sad that so and so's dying." And they're like, "Oh no, he's not dying." "What do you mean?" They're like, "Oh, we talked to him." "What do you mean you talked to him? How'd you talk to him?" "Oh, we talked to him through the iPad." "What? That's not possible. He only has X amount of hours left."
Yeah.
Guy's alive today. I just drove by his house.
Oh, really? Oh, so you know this guy like personally?
Um, the family members, I know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
never met the individual, but um, going back to belief, if that's not to sell you, majority of the family is like, "Yeah, he's dying." And there's one special one in the family that has done quite a bit of personal development work. Was
Mm.
listening to the books back in the day, listening to the tapes, and
Oh, yeah.
and understands how you can leverage yourself. It's pretty cool. So let that story be of influence to whoever heard that, and just realize that belief does definitely shape the outcome of your life,
Yeah.
negative or positive. If you're gonna think one thing, think big and think positive, because you're gonna spend the same amount of energy doing either one.
Oh, yeah. One last point from that article, the Psychology Today article, was core beliefs are the roots, limiting beliefs are the branches. Anyway, I wanted to move on to some random quotes on beliefs. Um, the first one that I wanted to talk about, and this was also from this podcast, just plugging my own podcast here, but I've had some great people on, and Matt Droget said the people that really reach their goals in life have a worthiness meter that is higher. The people that don't amount to much don't believe they are worthy of much. All right, so like I was thinking about that as I was, kind of preparing for this podcast, and I remember in church hearing that the only thing that humans are worthy of is hell. Okay,
And
and
did you hear that from a member of the congregation or from a leader?
a leader. I think that was said over the pulpit.
Nice. Not nice, but you guys get what I mean.
Okay, so like that was kind of the culture that I came from. I can see where they're coming from, but hearing that as a young individual, I don't even remember how old I was when I heard that. But like hearing that, I definitely see that, having an effect on my success in life, in business, in all of these things. My worthiness meter is coming down because like I don't deserve a successful business. I don't deserve to be happy in life. What do I deserve? I deserve hell. And so, like, if I really believe that, if that's like a core belief in me, reticulator activating system, whatever you call that thing, it's probably going to work for me, uh, making that to be true for me. Anyway, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's true, and that's terrible to hear that that was that impactful to you and that you remember that. I know not everybody is a follower of Jesus and or believes that there is a God and somebody much higher than all of us on earth, but I think what's really tied all my beliefs together from doing the personal development work and getting strong in my walk with the Lord is honestly sitting down and reading this,
Mm.
the Bible. I mean, if you want a playbook for your life and if you want hope, if you want salvation, if you want to learn how to be a better father, a better friend, a better husband, a better leader, a discipler, Jesus did live. Okay? So if you don't want to believe in God, there's, don't quote me, 60 some books or 87 books in the Bible. Okay, the New Testament, majority of it's about Jesus. He lived on earth. At the end of the day, if you want to remove God out of the picture and read about a historical figure, the man has some pretty impressive leadership skills.
Right.
And what I'm getting at in the Bible, there's a verse that many that have given me a lot of hope, but I just want to read you guys one. It's Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be by you wherever you go. To be strong and courageous. When you do have faith and hope in something bigger than you, in my case, God, some of these burdens of I can't do enough, I'm not enough, ultimately you rest on Him, and He's predestined your entire life. He knows what every chapter of your life is supposed to be. Jamie Kern Lima once said, God's rejection is God's protection. And I'm a huge believer in that quote, but I'm a bigger believer in the Bible, and that if God's got it all figured out for us, like I just have to be faithful, and I just got to play along with His plans.
Mm.
Like as soon as I try to take control of the situation and try to figure out how to amount to some huge goal, though I think it can be possible yourself, I think it's got to be what God wants for you. And there's some shifts recently happening in my life that I don't necessarily on an earthly level want to do, but there's been hold on, I should take that back. I do have deep excitement for it, but I wasn't expecting doing this. I don't feel like I'm enough. I feel like I need more training, more equipping in the Word, to better lead some people. But I have the unique ability right now to lead some young men who are struggling. And who am I to do this? You know what I mean? But why did the whole entire universe orchestrate to drop these men in front of my face? That wasn't me doing that. I didn't go out to seek that. I was like, I'm going to figure this out and change some lives. No. And I still don't believe I'm doing that. Again, man of faith, I believe God is doing something very interesting and unique in my life right now. And that you just have to be along for the ride.
I just want to say, like, from the first time that I've met you till now, like I've seen, there's been a lot of change that's gone on in you. Okay, and I don't know if you would agree with that, but like just looking on, I would say that the Nick now is a lot different than the Nick that I met in Utah at the workshop. I mean, even back then, you asked me the right questions, we had the right conversations that kind of got me onto a, a lot better path than what I was on. But like,
Hold on. An incredible difference. You transformed who you were. Continue.
okay, thank you.
Don't
Um,
shortcut it.
but it seems, I don't know. This is going to be this is my observation. You can
Yeah.
set me straight on this one. You seem a lot more relaxed, not so, um, maybe a little bit more like, I don't even know exactly how to describe it. I would say like more relaxed, more confident in being, um, just being yourself and not having to prove something to somebody.
You're 100% right. Thank you for that observation. I sense it and I feel it and I watch it daily within myself. But I gave myself to the Lord in 2022, fully 100% committed all in. No, it's probably, yeah, early 22. And and that's been a constant renewing of myself. It even talks about in the Bible. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will
Mm-hmm.
be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. But the renewing of your mind is a constant battle. And when I gave my life to Jesus, I knew there was way more ahead, and I think what you're noticing is the constant renewing of what's going on and the trust that I've just put in him. It kind of seems woo woo, and people of no faith are like, how do you just put your trust into something you can't even see? As I've built a stronger and deeper relationship with God, as I spent more time in the Bible, as I try to every day do devotions and surround myself with other Christian leaders, hearing their testimonies and watching God work through their life. I'm like, why am I worried about like trying to grow this thing to millions of dollars? Why am I trying to
Yeah.
do this? At the end of the day, guys, 24 years old. I'll be 25 in January. Like, what? You know, and I'm being discipled by men who are I just met this morning, 78 and 75 years old. Who am I right now to try to figure this whole shebang out? Like, why don't I just like kind of sit back and be like, okay, God, you give me these skills, you give me these abilities. I'm gonna do what I think I need to do so I can generate an income and I don't sink my family. But
Yeah.
I'm open. Show me what I need to be seen.
Yeah.
Show me what I need to do for your good, for your kingdom. And honestly, Randy, when I gave it all to him, not back in 2022, but when I just give it all to him, I think that's where my calmness comes. It's a sense of peace. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
nothing can stop me. I mean, the devil's going to work in your life, but if you got God on your side, like it's a win.
Yeah.
So that's where a
Well,
lot of my pieces came from.
okay. Real quick here. I know this could be a very, very long answer, but what would you say is the biggest belief shift from the time that I've met you till now?
I'll make it short. Kind of my long-winded answer I gave you before is any problem you have, giving it to God. Pray
Mm.
about it. God, I don't know how to do this right now. I don't
Yeah.
feel qualified to do this. I'm not sure I can do this. Help me through this moment. Reveal to me what I need to see. Help me step in the direction I need to be stepped in. Help me figure this out. And
Yeah.
ultimately, this is you working in my life. Show me how it's supposed to be done. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
That's the biggest shift, is just being okay and not trying to take control of everything. It's got to be this way. We got to have these people at dinner. We got to have this music at the house. Got to do this. Though that's not all gone. I get a little testy, when I don't have something. I'm like, oh, but I gotta have this. It's like, gotta have these shoes. It's like people don't even have shoes, and I'm over here complaining like, gotta have these sneakers. Like
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
biggest shift, Randy.
Oh, yeah. So one time I was out on a walk pondering life, and pondering some of my, I guess you could call them downfalls in business. And very, very much resonates with what you were just saying right there. And I was like, here I am trying to force this thing, like seriously force this thing. And it didn't work. It really just didn't work. And I came up with a quote, and like, and I know I sent this to you before,
Yeah.
or maybe like last week, but it's like, on our own, we cannot make the impossible happen. However, we can keep the impossible from happening.
Yeah.
And what I meant by that is, um, basically that came from the verse in Matthew 13 where Jesus is actually in Nazareth. He's hanging out with his homies. He's hanging out with all of the people that he grew up with, right?
Mm.
And yet, he cannot work miracles there. It says, and he did not do many mighty works there because of their unbelief. And so I look at my life, I look at all of the core beliefs that I grew up with, like I'm not worthy, my opinion is worth nothing. I've kept that one for so long, and like that manifested itself at my last job, and to think of it now is so horrible. Uh, I was very cynical and sarcastic, and I don't know, maybe I was still that way when you met me, but like,
You were.
um, was I?
You were.
Oh man, that's horrible. That's horrible. Anyway, but like, I think that a lot of the changes that, or a lot of the things that I wanted in life, like I don't even really know if I believed that they could happen or that they would happen. Um, and I really did not have very many positive beliefs about myself as well.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Rennie, what's been the biggest belief shift in yourself to get you to become the man you are today? Because Randy probably doesn't brag on himself too much, but when I met Randy in Utah, I was like, man, this is an interesting cat. I'm like, said where he's from, like, okay, I can see he's maybe a little more quiet, reserved, not so cultured, not so city. And I'm like, I respect that. Just super old school. You know, he's like talking about supper. And I'm like, supper? I'm like, oh, dinner. Talking about dinner right now. And we had a great time. And you listened very well. You allow me to just jam your ear off whenever we're together. But seriously, you're a great husband, a great father, and you've constantly been working on that the time that I met you and watching you do that. I mean, we were in Growth Day in LA, and
mm,
it's okay to say, but I mean, you were bawling your eyes out. And I think you
yeah,
had moments through this journey where you're like, oh my gosh, you know, you're uncovering things of your past that you're like, oh, I didn't realize I was doing this until this dude told me what he does. And I'm like, crap. And I think when we're emotionally drawn to certain situations, that is a sign of being revealed to something that is deeply lacking in your life. So
yeah,
these self-improvement books, these self-help books, with your belief in anything in general, it's like I think you'll be gravitated towards the pain points in your life that you know that aren't good that you want to change. Mine is time management, always late to things, constantly battling what I was going to do throughout the day as a business owner. There's so many different things you can do. What are you going to do?
mm,
So I just went geek mode on that and really figured something out for myself that worked. But you yourself have been on an incredible journey, and I just cannot wait to see what God just unfolds in your life. And I think your gifts are already in place, but continues to uncover those gifts for you. It's been a fun journey to watch. But what has been your biggest mindset shift and belief shift about yourself?
ooh, um, that that is a big one. That is a big one. I guess I don't even really know if it would be so much about myself. I mean, it does include myself, but I guess one thing that one of my coaches helped me with was like to see yourself as royalty. And again, that might sound a little woo woo, but if you think about it, Nick, like I can sit here and like I haven't made the I I've been on like trying to run a business, things like that. That's been a whole thing, and it's revealed so many things within myself that needed to be uncovered and dealt with. And that's why I started this podcast, is because I want other people to uncover all of that stuff and improve themselves and get to know themselves and get to love themselves as well. Um, but getting or believing that I am royalty, because I also am a believer, but considering yourself a son of God, and that our inheritance from God is so big and is so beautiful that we we actually we actually don't need to worry about anything.
No.
In fact, one of my coaches told me, like, you if you're out of money or whatever it is that you're stressing out about, it's like, you know what? Uh, the God that you claim to serve, it says in the Bible that he owns a cattle on 1,000 hills. And like just practically, Nick, I can eat for a very, very long time, me and my family, on 1,000 cattle. Okay,
Yeah.
or the cattle from 1,000 hills. And so just seeing myself as a son of God, having the power that raised Jesus from the dead living within me, and that my inheritance from God is so much bigger and better than, I guess, what I thought before. Like that has been the biggest mindset shift for me. That's been the biggest change in beliefs, because
Yeah.
that has just given me so much confidence to make, I guess, what you would call the stupid moves of, you know, jumping out into entrepreneurship without a, a bulletproof place and plan in a bulletproof plan in place. There we go.
But Randy, the Bible's clear that we're put on this earth for a purpose, and that God does have a plan for our lives, and it's all figured out in advance. And it's
Mm.
like I think it's my belief that He's probably laughing at us. We're like,
Yeah.
look at Nick trying to take control again. He doesn't even know what's about to happen in 2 months. He doesn't know why. He just you're like, okay, God, I'm gonna do the online course. We're making it happen. I'm gonna make so much money, God. We're gonna make this thing happen. I'm gonna spend $40,000 on putting everything into this. I'm gonna build systems. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna pay these just subscriptions. I'm gonna get trapped into a year of paying some company a bunch of money. This is gonna be great. I'm gonna just move people. I'm gonna teach people, and then it all is like, this is not what you're supposed to be doing. What do you
Uh,
what are you trying to mentor people without me? Why are you trying to teach them principles that have nothing to do with me? Oh,
mm.
okay. Yeah, sorry, God. So
Yeah.
what now? And it's like, get back to making some money. Okay, yes, God, got it figured out. And now it's like, hey, there's a need in your local church. Why don't you go figure out how to serve?
Yeah.
So it's like he's got it all planned out. If you just serve
Yeah.
to his will, hands up, give to him. He'll provide. He always does. But if this does seem like woo-woo to you guys, and you guys are like, man, I've been wondering about this Jesus thing, God, Holy Spirit. Jesus, Son of God, God the Father, the Holy Spirit's Trinity.
Mm.
There's a movie called The Forge. It just came out in
Oh.
2024. If you want to see, you might be like, this is like Hallmark. This is fake. If you watch The Forge, you can kind of see the story of how God works in people's lives from the
Mm.
beginning, from the broken, from the confusion to the anger to the frustrated to the sinful nature, the addiction to giving your life to Him, to having disciples in your life, other men pouring into you, and that whole transformational journey. If you want to see that whole shabam, I'd watch that movie. You could see the whole thing in about 2 hours.
Mm.
And when I watched that, the last 3 years, it really came together. I'm like, oh, this is how it all works.
Really?
Yeah, it really changed my perspective on a lot of things. I watched it, I just bawling my eyes out. I went through like 4 quicker picker upper paper towel roll, or paper towels. And
Bounty.
Bounty, yeah, quicker picker upper. I mean, just absorb in my face liquids, and it was pretty convicting. But I was like, oh, this makes sense. I get it now. But yeah, if you want to know more about God, I encourage you to ask Randy or I questions about him, how you can start your walk with him, and if you just want to take a more casual approach, watch The Forge. But I definitely didn't anticipate on talking about God this much, but I do think that's a key part of your belief system, and knowing that something is much larger than you, and you don't
Mm.
have to have the anxiety, you don't have to have the worry, and giving it to God to figure out. I mean, He's already got it figured out. Surrender to Him, give it to Him, and He'll set your path straight.
Amen. All right. I got some questions that I ask to every guest, and I don't know if you've listened to any of my podcasts, but
Randy,
I'm
you
going to
just
ask them
sent it
to
to me
you
a couple
too.
days ago, so no. Hit me with the questions, man.
All right, these are a little more lighthearted. Not going to be so deep here. Um, what's your go-to snack slash drink combo at a gas station?
Oh, gas station.
Yep.
Um, Snack is gonna be gummy worms, not
Oh yeah.
sour.
Oh,
And
okay.
then, depending what time of day it is, it's going to be a Celsius or it's going to be a
Hmm.
coffee. And I find I'll do the coffees if I'm driving through the night after 2 a.m. because some mornings I'll be up at 3:34. Um, I'll do coffee then because it makes sense to my body, but typically a Celsius anytime after 2
Hmm.
at a
All
gas
right.
station. Yeah. It's like 2 to 2 is my Celsius time.
Would you consider Honey Nut Cheerios breakfast soup?
100%. Yeah.
Makes
Sounds
sense.
great.
All right. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
100%. Just talked to a family member about this, and I'm like, getting to know him some more, new into the family, and I'm like, what's what's the scoop here? You've been on Earth way longer than I have. Why don't you why don't you eat pizza? He's like, I only believe in Canadian bacon and pineapple pizza. I'm like, what?
Wow.
He's like, yeah, I only think that should be the only kind of pizza. And I'm like, amen. you
That's
know?
what I grew up on. That's what I
Yeah,
grew up on.
nothing wrong with it.
All right. In Nick's opinion, who is the greatest music artist of all time?
I'm not a super big music guy. Um, but I'd say if I had to pick an artist, I think Brandon Lake, Christian
Hmm.
artist, he's pretty solid. Um, or Phil Wickman. Phil Wickman's gangster. I did
Is he?
school. Yeah, not an actual gangster, but gangster of God. He's a GG.
uh,
GIG. He's a gig, gangster and God. No, he's cool.
all right. So Phil Wickham or Brandon Lake?
Yeah. Phil
I like it.
Wickman or Brandon Lake, yeah.
All right. What is something that most people don't know about you?
Um, Probably that I am a follower of the Lord. Say a lot of people don't know that about me. I mean, family They have inclinations. They don't know how deep. I
Hmm.
Majority of them aren't. And I would say that right there. Nobody really knows about my faith. Besides all of you guys who stayed till the end.
Oh yeah. I would say that probably one thing that most people don't know about you is that you're only 24 years old.
That too, man. I keep forgetting about that.
Yeah.
Just had like
That
three
but that
people tell me that. They're like,
oh really?
they're like, how are you? What happened? I'm like, I'm just dumb. Like, I'm just a super senior. Like, I don't know. I just figured out how to do things a different way than society told me I was supposed to do them.
Yeah, the mustache puts you at about a solid 33, I would say.
Dude, at 18, Randy, I had a goatee, and I was at
Yeah.
18, I was talking to 29, 28-year-old.
Hmm.
Yeah, I had a goatee, bro. I was like, this thing's gonna win some chicks. That one with the mustache. Look up to my grandfather. He's had a mustache the whole time I've known him. So
Nice.
I think it's pretty cool.
All right. One last question. If you could
Yeah.
have dinner with anyone from history, who would it be?
Jesus. Dude, his disciples, 12 disciples back in the day, as much time as they got to spend with him. I mean, I was just reading somewhere. They had like a 40-day gathering of teaching from him. Imagine 40 dinners with Jesus. But
Pretty crazy.
yeah, that's who I'd have dinner with. From history, I like that.
All right. Well, good deal. Thank you so much, Nick, for coming on the podcast. And yeah, hopefully we can do this again some other time.
Randy, anytime. My pleasure. Thanks for having me. You're an amazing guy. Love to see you grow, and don't stop, okay?
All right. Thanks, Nick.
Yep, we'll talk soon, buddy.
Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. If you like what you've seen, please leave us a like, please subscribe to our channel, and we'd love to hear what you're thinking, so leave a comment down below.